All right. Welcome everybody. What were you saying about our
Where's
intro?
our intro? Yeah.
It just played.
Oh,
There we go.
I'm trying to share. I'm trying to share.
Oh my God! It's like doing a show with Gary again.
Oh no, I
Um,
got it. I got it. I got
there we go.
it.
Welcome everybody to the Exes podcast with Scott and Therese, and I'm Scott,
I'm Therese.
and we are exes who are friends and plan to remain that way. And one of the reasons we do this podcast, first of all, is just because we enjoy it and we have fun together. And this is one of our kind of a new hobby for us, and we really like it. Something I've been doing for a long time. Therese is fairly new to it, but has taken to it like a fish to water. You're killing it.
I
Um,
think you.
and we get to bring up different topics. And last show 2 weeks ago, we touched, and this is a new night. We're doing Wednesday nights now because I may have commitments for Thursdays that are going to keep me too busy. So Wednesday nights are better. Um, but 2 weeks ago, we just for the hell of it, we did a show on crime, which is one of your big hobbies.
Yes.
Can you even explain why you're so fascinated by it?
I guess I just like the whole thing. All the investigation, how they get the crime scene, how they figure that out loud, how it happened, like in what order, how they put all of the DNA together. It just interests me.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think I used to always like crime shows, like
Mhm.
Law and Order and those kind of shows,
Mhm.
And then once Investigation Discovery came on the air, I was, that's it. You're off to the race because now you get to see the real stuff.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, some of the stuff they made up on TV doesn't even come close to how weird the real stuff could be.
No, not lately. That's for sure.
And 2 weeks ago, we were highlighting the Daybell Vallows crime, where the two children, the two exes of this married couple, both their exes were killed. The brother died. Just a lot of deaths surrounding that. There's up to 2, 4, 5, 6 related deaths all involved in that whole thing, including her second or third husband who died, who was even a part of any of this. Now they're looking at that too. So,
Kind of.
well, how many times you got to charge somebody for murder? I mean, anyway,
8.
yeah, really. That's true. So that is actually they're still fighting about the trial dates and fighting about separating the trial. So we will keep you updated on that as time goes by. There's a little new stuff going on now where the Chad Daybell is now saying it has to be a separate trial because our stories are not going to match. So, I mean, it just doesn't seem like a very good thing to do if you're innocent. You should, you know what I mean? It's just weird. It's like, okay, we both made up different lies and we don't want to tell them in the same room. So that's
Well,
pretty much what they're saying.
I'm pretty sure he's going to blame it all on her and her brother.
And she's going to blame it all on him. I mean, we pretty much know that.
I don't know if she is. I don't know if she is. She might be delusional enough to not.
Well, she has been fighting to become incompetent. And
she is competent.
She has been found competent to stand trial twice.
Apparently, it did take 90 days the first time. I mean, she was treated for whatever.
But if you get arrested, if you don't go a little bit batshit crazy, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I think she's a little bit batshit crazy anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. All right. So anyway, so that's that. With that, we're gonna keep you updated. I don't expect there's gonna be anything happening until January, which is
probably
a possible start date for a trial. But at this point, since I don't think they've announced it for sure yet. So that means we could be looking at February, March. Who knows?
Oh, I think it's going to be like the fall next year.
Oh, wow. I mean, I understand. I understand people need they get their day. They're allowed to prepare. They're allowed to do all that stuff. But if it's taking you 2 or 3 or 4 years to prepare for a trial, the only thing that tells me is you got to be guilty as hell. Well, it's a judgment on my part. I know it's wrong, but it just doesn't seem like if you're innocent, you would need that much time.
Personally, Chad Daybell's lawyer, he's a private lawyer, so he can do this, even though he's never done a death penalty case, because he's private and paid for by the client. He can use him, but apparently there's no money left for any help. So he's going to try and do a death penalty case all by himself. I think in early next year, I think he's going to pull out. They're going to get him state representation, and that's going to delay even more.
Well, let's be honest about something. How old is Chad Daybell? Just I know we don't know for sure, but off the top of your head, what are you thinking?
50s, I think. I think he's in his 50s.
In his 50s. So, you know, he's definitely in our neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And the average person on death row spends 20 years on death row before that's even possible that they're going to be executed. Most people, it's much longer than that. 25 years or more.
Yeah.
So basically, he gets to be clothed, fed, he gets exercise, he gets I'm not saying he's not getting the life of Riley. It's not a great thing. I know that. But we're going to say that you're guilty of these things, you go to the death penalty, but we're not going to do it for like 25 years, so don't worry about it. He might die faster than that if they let him out on the outside, getting hit by a bus or something.
Yeah.
A bus driven by a family member of.
Yeah.
I know a few people would like to be driving that bus.
Oops.
Yeah. Thud, thud. Let me back up and see what I hit. Thud, thud. Oh, it was Chad. I'll get out of here. Thud, thud. I rolled over him 3 times. I was just, anyway.
Making sure.
Yeah. But, so sometimes it's a little ridiculous. And here's the thing. If you're not that sure that they're guilty, because a lot of times they say we put them on death row so that they can appeal, they can do this, and we got to wait to make sure that if you're not that sure that they're guilty, why did you convict then? Right. I mean, Right. So who's with us right now? Mary Kay is with us. Good evening, crime investigators. Thank you, Mary Kay, coming to us from up outside of Toronto in Canada area. Well, it's not Canada. It's in Canada. It's outside the Toronto area. She's Canadian.
She's Canadian.
And, hey, it's Mom from down the block. Okay. And, we got Danette with us. She is buying into our stuff. I appreciate it, Danette. All right. Hopefully you are a criminal investigator like we are, and we can figure some of these things out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's us.
Now, it's like Hillary, my daughter Hillary, my oldest, she loves this stuff. My other kids, it's just like a waste of time.
Yeah.
Are your kids into any of this? I don't think any of the kids. Your kids
Jessica is. Jessica has fun now. Mm-hmm. She listens to a lot of the same podcasts I listen to now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What was the one I was listening to today? Law and Crime? No.
Oh, yeah. Law and Crime.
Law and Crime. Mm-hmm. That's like a network of podcasts, right? Or something like that?
It's, like that, yeah.
Yeah, so if you really want to get more and have more time with this kind of stuff, that's a good. I think that's a good thing to start with, and they have a lot of real good information. Yeah, and they actually have like reporters out on the streets and doing the
They're more of a reporting kind of.
Yeah, Therese and I have our report. That's our reporter is Google. My daughter and I both love this stuff. Awesome. It's a fun thing to share with the family. Nothing like sharing murder and mayhem.
Nothing like weirdness.
Yes. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what is known as the Pike County Massacre. And basically, why don't you just tell them basically what the crime was, Therese?
Basically, it was 4 members of one family who went one night and killed 8 members of another family who they all knew and were intertwined. And that's it.
That's
4 different houses, 8 people dead.
Yes. And there was Jake and Hannah. Was it Anna?
Yes.
Yeah. Jake and Hannah were together as a couple. They had a baby. And then they separated, and then they were fighting over custody of the baby. And apparently that is at the center of one family trying to wipe out another family.
Well,
That's apparently at the center.
I guess it started as kind of a custody thing, but they're saying that the root of it was because the Wagners thought that the child either had been or would be molested in the mother's care.
Well, this is coming from the
They
father.
had no proof.
This is coming from the father, who the whole family is triggering him as being the brains behind the killings. So
I don't see why he's the brains. I think the mother's the brains.
Well, let's take a look. First of all, let's talk about our victims here. These are all people from the same family. We have Dana Roden and her husband Christopher Roden were killed. Clarence, or Frankie Roden, and his wife, brand new wife, I believe, Hazel Gilly, were killed.
I don't know if they were married or just.
I don't think they were married. They just had a baby, though.
Yes,
they just had a baby. Hannah Mae Roden, who is the one who had the child with the member of the Wagner family. 16-year-old Christopher Roden, Kenneth Roden, who is also a very close friend of one of the Wagners, the father. They were friends. And finally, Gary Roden, who was a cousin, I do believe. Yeah. So this whole family was killed on April 22nd?
I think so.
Yes, I believe it was April 22nd.
Like 2016, right?
2016.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a matter of they were all killed together. This might be a little hard to see, but there were 4 crime scenes. Chris and Gary Roden were at the first crime scene. They were in one. They all lived in proximity on the same road, almost on the same property, but in different houses. But it stretched out over a couple of miles. But it was on the same road. So in one house, Chris Roden and Gary Roden were found. In the next house, Frankie and Hannah Roden, or Frankie Roden and Hannah Gilly, were found. In the third crime scene, Dana, Hannah Roden, and Chris Roden Jr. were found. And then finally, about 6.5 miles away, I have another one that says 8 miles away, but 6.5 miles away in another house, again, same area, was Kenneth Roden was found. So 8 members of the same family were all killed in one evening. So April 21st to April 22nd, overnight, all of them were killed. And these are the people that right now are being held responsible. This is the mother and father of the first 2. George Billy Wagner and Angela Wagner are the parents of George Wagner and Jake Wagner, Edward Jake Wagner, with Jake. So we'll call the father Billy and the mother Angela. George is the son and Jake is the son. They actually plotted, and did a lot of things that we're going to talk about to instigate this night of murder, and then did a lot to cover it up afterwards. You know, and again, starting with the custody of a child, and the first thought they had when this happened was they had discovered that on 3 of those 4 properties they were growing marijuana.
Yeah.
So they actually believed that a Mexican drug cartel had murdered them.
Well, they looked into it. I don't know if they really believed that, but they did look into it. Yes.
It was. I think it was a little bit of it's a possibility, and then but a whole lot more rumor came out of that.
Yes.
Because where they were in, I believe it's Pike County. It's very, very small. People live there for a very long time, and not a lot of people come and go. It's just like you kind of born there, you stay with your family, and you die there, and everybody knows everybody. And so when somebody says drug cartel is murdering people, everybody starts walking around the streets with flak jackets. And at one point, even the sheriff said, because he was so unsure, if you feel threatened, arm yourself.
Oh, yeah.
He actually said that. So that's the part of the country this is from. So
Ohio.
Let me see. Hannah was only 13 when the relationship started with Jake. Well, there was. Well, he was
something like 17 then.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So, yeah. so that's pretty much where we're at. This happened in 2016. The bodies were discovered the next day. It was a domino effect. At first, it was one house, and then another, and then another, and then many hours later, the last one was found. But this is not an area where they deal with this kind of stuff, right, Therese?
No, no, no.
No, the county, like I said, Pike County, very small, and it was the biggest case in Ohio history, let alone Pike County.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, they're hunters. They're outdoors people. They're not, in general, they're not murderers. I mean.
Well, hunters aren't murderers?
Well, I mean.
No, I like it.
No.
So who are the people that would pull something like this off? Again, these are the people. Now, looking at this, it really, if I said this is a family of murderers, I think when you look at this picture, you'd say, yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very strange. But what has happened since then has been the strangest thing. Is I think it was almost 2 years with no clues whatsoever.
Yeah, I believe so. They went to Alaska. They all took off. They went to Alaska.
Yeah, so the Wagners, again, the suspects in the murder, who weren't real suspects at the time, although they were people of somewhat interest. They didn't even want to say they were people of interest at the time.
Right.
But the Wagners, a short time after the murders, picked up and left all of their property and everything behind and went to live in Alaska. Apparently, a statement by Jake was he wanted to get his daughter away from this because it was such a circus around the death of her mother, and he didn't. I mean, at least that's an excuse I can understand. Although I don't think you have to go to Alaska to get away from it.
Oh, I don't think so either. But
so they went up to Alaska. Now, how long were they up there?
I think a year.
Okay.
Because he met somebody else and married somebody else and brought her down with them.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. She escaped, though. Lucky her.
Now, I did hear an interesting story, and I don't have any visuals to back this up, but this is not the first time the Wagners have fought for custody of a child. It was it a cousin or was
George's son?
George. So George Jr. here. Mm-hmm. He's not really Junior. George Wagner the fourth. So
fourth, yeah.
The son George, which we're going to talk a lot about him in a minute. He was married before or had a relationship before, had a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the story you heard about how that went down?
Oh, what I heard is Tabitha, who was his wife, and the mother of his child. She felt she wasn't happy in the home. She wasn't happy with people watching her. She didn't feel like she was accepted, blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff went down. And they started accusing her of like trying to poison them, trying to give the little boy drugs, trying to touch him. So she eventually made a plan, escaped, had her father, who she hadn't seen in a year because she wasn't allowed to, pick her up, and she got out of there. So now she does have the son, since George is now.
But she had to go on the run from these people.
She did, and they chased her down.
Wow.
She was riding a bike with flat tires down to a gas station where she could call her mother and tell her father exactly where to pick her up, because he had already driven there from wherever.
I feel like there was a movie recently that has a lot of similarities to this case.
It's crazy. And then apparently the whole family were in cahoots to keep her apart from the child for a year, saying that she never came to visit, that she had visitation, but she didn't show up. Like all of these lies kind of thing, because if she hadn't been in contact with him for a year, then it was easier for them to get custody of him.
Wow.
And
so there's a history. There's a history here of people that will go to any lengths to get what they want.
Do you know the family history?
No.
They used to steal diesel. they used to set their houses on fire and collect the insurance money and then move into a little better house.
This is the Wagner family we're talking about.
Yes, they grew up as criminals. They were taught how to spot police. They were taught how to spot security cameras. Yeah.
Wow. Which makes sense because there were security cameras on the Rodin properties that were disabled. And somehow they got around that. Mm-hmm. So they had to have some experience with that as well.
They had some device that scrambled it or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. It really is. Now, not to mention, so just to get everybody up to speed, 2 years after the murders, they had gone to Alaska. I think they were coming back around that time too. The evidence started pouring in. Now, they had apparently done like 1,000 interviews at this point, or 800 interviews. They had hotlines and tip lines, and they followed a lot of different things. And yes, they did follow the drug cartel angle just in case, but found that had no validity. But the real stuff came along. I mean, when they started finding evidence, I think footprints. As a matter of fact, we'll go to some of the evidence that they've been dealing with over this time.
Well, if you go all the way down to the bottom,
okay,
that is the very first thing.
The shell casing.
Yes, they had some suspicions and they wanted to talk to them. So when they found out that they were back, they went to talk to them, and what they saw were some shell casings in the driveway as they were talking to, I don't know who, one of the family out front, that matched some of the shell casings at the crime scene. And that was their very first clue that they found. And then they started getting everything else, because then they got a search warrant, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then they started following their alibis and got, Walmart footage and all that stuff.
Well, there was a lot of things that went into this. So they had the shell casings that were found at the home of the Wagners. Shoe prints left at the scenes that matched the sizes worn by the two brothers. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, those shoes, they have now proven that the mother bought those sneakers for her kids to wear specifically for this occasion. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to go to a murder in old shoes, people. All right. Just saying. We had mentioned they had been to Jack Wagner had been to the trailer where Dana Rodin lived to help assemble the crib for Hannah Rodin's newborn baby. And so he learned the layout of the room. And they had only been in that. They wouldn't have known the layout if he had not already been there. So that's one of the things that they found. Mm-hmm. The gun silencer. Now, here we go. Gun silencers found in a well on the former property of the Wagners. They found that just before they were indicted in 2018. Now, there were also forged documents. Now, these documents were forged by Angela's mother, the grandmother of the two boys.
Frederica.
She was a paralegal not a notary. She was a notary. Mm-hmm. And they actually found that she had forged custody documents.
And backdated them.
Mm-hmm. And just getting this all set up and all their ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. So they found those. And then after the murders, George, the father, or Billy, if you will, the father, got a tattoo of a skull and crossbones with an 8 ball in its mouth and a big number 8. And they had just killed 8 people.
Was it the father or was it the son?
George.
I thought it was the 2 boys.
Maybe it was. But that would be very interesting, seeing as George is saying, I didn't kill anybody. Why would he be doing something like that to celebrate death?
I have to look that up. Let me look that up.
All right, look that up.
Okay.
So anyway, let's see if we can piece this together here. A little bit. That's the crime scene there. Let me just go back to the Wagners. The two parents are charged now with all of this evidence piling up. They did finally find the actual guns themselves, because a couple of members of the family decided to take a plea deal, so they actually told where everything was. And so they do have the guns, the silencers, all the pieces that they need. For an open and shut, murder did happen. Now it's figuring out which of the family members are responsible, and that's what we're going to be talking about now.
Yeah, it was the son. It was the son that got the tattoo.
Okay, so it was the son who got the tattoo.
2 boys. Jake got one too.
You see, Mary saying that crazy how so many people can conspire to do evil things. Imagine if that energy could be put to good. You know what? But there are. We're focusing on this because it is so horrifically bad that it just makes everybody pay attention. But there's a lot of good families out there doing good things, and a lot more. But just to think about how this whole family could be that twisted.
I know.
And they all just follow suit. But, you know, we're also talking about the Rodin family. Now, I'm not saying that they were bad people or anything. They were all growing illegal marijuana.
Well, is it illegal in Ohio?
Well, they were distributing marijuana. I don't know if it was illegal or not, now that I'm thinking about it. But if they were concerned about drug cartels wouldn't worry about legal marijuana things. They would.
Well, I don't think that the drug cartel is going to worry about a few that are growing marijuana in their backyard, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, is it really?
That means everybody's teenage son is in trouble right now.
They were violent. I mean, the Rodins seemed like they were also a close-knit family. They all lived very close together, and they all helped each other out. But
that was a standard in that place. In Pike County, that's the standard. It's a very poor, depressed area, and families are generational there, and they help each other out and live in the same vicinity, if not all together under the same roof in many cases.
Yeah. The one thing, too, is that Gary, who was like the cousin or something, he didn't live there. He was just visiting, the poor guy. He just happened to be there that night.
Let's see. Which one?
Gary.
Oh, Gary Rodin was staying. He was actually staying with Christopher Rodin.
Yeah.
And because Christopher Rodin and Dana Rodin are separated. Yeah, there was something like that. But he wasn't even living in that area. He just happened to be there.
Yeah, he had family and he was visiting.
Wow.
They probably went fishing or hunting or something together.
Ridiculous. Okay. So with all this going on, now we've got all these charges that are going to be handed down. This is probably hard for everybody to read. I'm just going to take you through it. The blue sticky notes on our crime board here are the Wagners, and the red sticky notes are our victims, the Rodin family. And so we already noticed that it said that Billy and Angela, the mom and the dad, are being charged with multiple counts of murder, as well as George and Jake. But their mothers, the grandmothers, are also being charged with obstruction. And there was also the one of them, which I forgot which one of it was, is being charged with falsifying documents because of the custody papers. Those have been reduced. Those two have been reduced because apparently the mothers have been cooperating somewhat.
Okay.
They've been cooperating somewhat. But so again, we're at that point where they're all arrested. Now they were arrested in 2018.
Yeah.
I believe. So 2 years, a little over 2 years after the murders happened, 2 years and 4 months or something, they got arrested. Beyond making the normal protestations that people would make and saying, no, I didn't do it, 2 people came forward rather quickly, I was surprised, to make a plea deal.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 people being the mother and the son, Jake, whose baby this all started over.
Mm-hmm.
And in their plea deals, they agreed to testify against their own family members, their father and their brother, or in her case, her husband and her son. They'll testify against them. and they know that they're all pretty much screwed. But I think the biggest part of the deal was no death penalty. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Now, was that no death? I think the deal was I will confess and I will testify, but you cannot give any of us the death penalty. I don't think it was
wasn't the deal.
It was just protecting themselves.
Those two, yes. But midway through George's trial, the prosecutors did withdraw the death penalty for him. I don't know why.
Well, I think we're going to know why in a second. We're going to get to that in a second. I think there's a reason for that. And I think it was right around the time that Jake's statements became very, very public knowledge. So the mother testified against them. But the big thing was Jake's confession. Jake's confession was really that real smoking gun. The mother was not on scene at the murders.
Right.
She stayed home. Somebody had to stay home and make breakfast in the morning because they were going to be hungry.
With the kids.
She had to stay home with the kids, and and make breakfast. When you're out murdering all night, you want to come home to a good meal. Okay. So Jake said that he and his brother and his father went to each of the locations and murdered these people. But he also made the statement that I was the first one that shot the gun, shot the first person. And because I was kind of like, my brother froze, George froze. Jake did it, but didn't do it well. And the father really finished off the first two people. But then after that, Jake pretty much took responsibility for killing all the rest of them by himself.
5. He took responsibility for 5.
For 5. Okay. He gave his father the rest of the responsibility, and he said his brother did not shoot or kill anybody. So I do believe that that's why they withdrew the murder or the death penalty.
For George?
Yes, because if he's convicted of murder, you don't have to pull the trigger to be convicted of murder. If you participate, you can. But because of his level of participation stopped right before the murder happened, I guess you can't really. I mean, how crazy would it be that the guy who killed everybody makes a deal, and the people who didn't kill anybody would get a death penalty? How crazy would that be? There goes the microphone, right? We're having technical difficulties.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
You got it? It's okay. See, it's that shocking that she just knocked the mic off the table to believe that something like that could happen. So there will be no trial, obviously, and there's not even a penalty phase because their plea agreements sentenced them. The mother got 30 years.
Okay.
I think there might have been a few extra things in there, but the mother got 30 years for her participation. Jake got a life sentence he got a life sentence without the possibility of parole, plus an extra 160 years.
Let's just make sure he never gets out. I mean, what is the point in that?
Thank you. If somebody could explain what the point was to
I guess it's so there definitely is no chance he will ever get out, right? Because the mother can get out in 30 years. She'll be 84 years old, but she can get out.
Well, given the way it usually works, you get points and you get different things like that, and time served here, and you get different things. A 30-year sentence could be as little as 18 years. It all depends.
That's awful.
A life sentence without the possibility of parole is that he may never get parole. Never. He can't ask for it. He can't get it. It's not awarded to him. The only thing that would save him is a pardon by the president of the United freaking States. That's the only thing that could happen. And even then, I don't know if he can overturn that kind of conviction. However, that being said, if you're going to give him that, then the 160, it's like, I just don't get it. That's a whole lot of paperwork for something that really doesn't mean anything.
Well, let's just take any loophole possible.
We're getting a question. Where was the child after the murders? Now, when the murders took place, I believe the child of Jake and Hannah was with Jake.
No, at Angela's house.
Yeah. No, he wasn't there for the murders. Yeah, there wasn't any. No, but was staying with Jake's with the Wagners. The baby child was staying with the Wagners.
Well, yeah.
like for a
Well,
weekend visit or whatever it might be.
Hannah Mae had just given birth to another man's child.
Oh, geez.
She had a 5-week-old newborn.
But there were 3 babies, children left. I think I got a graphic on that because this is something that is really kind of horrific. I don't think I brought this graphic out because it was really quite disturbing. No, I did not. There were at one site there was 2 children, I think 6 months and 3 years old or something like that. And then at another site there was just a 5 or 6 week old baby.
Yeah, that's Hannah Mae.
And their parents, their families were murdered, and they were left there in the blood. And I did see a crime scene photo with one of the kids with just blood all over. And they would just, thank God they did not kill the kids. I mean, if there's a small blessing in any of this, I'm glad they didn't kill the kids. But I don't think any of, if they had a beef with one person and one-on-one, they wanted to duke it out. That's one thing. But this is just, this goes beyond.
Yeah.
You see, this is like the Manson family on steroids. Yeah. Yeah. I think Charlie Manson is saying, well, shit, I wasn't even that bad. Come on. Good time is usually 1 year per 3 years. Okay. So Michael's kicking in. He's saying, so you serve 1 year for every 3 years you're sentenced, I think.
Okay.
So if you're sentenced to 30, you might do 10. As I think, Michael, clarify, is that what you're talking about? Because it does make sense that that's what they're saying. Anyway, so let's go back to this. Where were we? So Jake now has made a deal. The mother has made a deal, and now 2 people have to stand trial. Mm-hmm. Jake's not going to see a trial. The mother's not going to see a trial. George, the son, and Billy, the father, are now having to stand trial. Now, George's trial, the one who everyone says didn't shoot anybody, although I think you and I will agree he participated enough in this to be responsible for everything that happened. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
He helped get the guns. He helped do this. He helped do that. He helped with so many different things. And he was there, and he didn't do anything to stop it.
Well, I don't know if he is all that innocent as they're saying. Anyway.
Well, I don't, why would they just say, what difference would it make unless he was trying to reduce his sentence and figures I'll just take the fall for everybody?
I don't know.
So maybe we don't know. Here's the thing. You've got
8 people were killed and he took responsibility for 5. So there's 3 people left there.
Well, I think he pointed the finger at his father.
I don't know if he did.
Well, he has to. I mean, if there's 3 of you there and you saying George didn't shoot anybody and I only killed 5, well, hello. There was another killer came in behind us. We didn't know him. So that's where that's at. Now, George went on trial.
Yes.
George went on trial, and he's been on trial for the past 4 months.
40-something weeks. Yeah.
40-something weeks, which is what? Almost. Oh, wow. So that's between 9 and 10 months.
Well, I don't think all right, maybe it's not that long.
All right.
Anyway, he been on trial. Weeks, a couple months.
He's been on trial for a couple of months, and he, again, tried to say that none of this was his idea. He spent a lot of time pointing a finger at the father. He said his brother Jake was worked up and angry, but the father was the one who fueled the fire and said, you got to kill everybody. So that's what George is saying. George is saying he just didn't want to go against them, but he had told everybody it was a bad idea not to do it. But again, he didn't do anything to stop it. Because this was weeks of months of planning. They even were stalking their Facebook pages so that they knew what their movements were and where they were.
Yeah, they had all their passwords and everything. The girls. Yeah.
Yeah, because this looks like a family of computer scientists right there. Listen, they're all going to jail. You can be mad at me if you want. So George has been on trial, and I think his lawyers were seriously thinking, Michael gave me an answer, yes, either get out in 10 or eligible for parole in 10. Okay, I think it's once you serve 1/3, you start to become eligible for parole.
I don't know why none of the boys are saying anything about their mother. Because I believe that she is the one that kind of initiated and planned this whole thing.
You know what? I know she seems like she's skating out of this a little. Well, I mean, she's getting 30 years. I mean, it's not skating out of anything, but it does seem like she's getting an awful light sentence compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
Especially given what happened today. So after between 4 and 6 months or whatever it is of the trial, again, George, the son, Jake's brother, the one who didn't fire a bullet, but was complicit and was there. I think they were thinking they were going to go easier on him because he didn't kill anybody. And turns out, go ahead and share exactly what happened.
Guilty.
Guilty.
All 8 charges.
All 8.
All 8.
Guilty of aggravated murder.
Mm-hmm.
Aggravated murder, which is, it's not just murder. It's not just something happened. It's like, that's like, this was planned. It was heinous. It was, it's difficult to describe the evil behind it. But he was found guilty of all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, assuming that he gets a sentence like his brother, he will never see daylight again.
And he shouldn't.
And, death penalty or not, they'll probably live out the same amount of years in prison as they do with the death penalty anyway. So,
yeah, probably.
I think it's just more comfortable on death row than it is on the. I think you get a cell to yourself and everything, and it's different. But anyway, I don't know. It just might have been. You might want to rethink that when you find out who your cellmate is. All right.
Oh, jeez.
So now we've got 3 of the 4 have now pled or been found guilty of the murders. We got Jake taking the full-on all counts. We got George getting all counts. We got Angela with reduced sentences because of her participation and because she was not on the scene. And I think that was the big difference there for her. She was not at the scene of the murders. Now, the big one, Big Daddy Billy, he's coming up next. I believe they're talking about after the first year, sometime in January, they start his trial. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds right.
I can't imagine that this is going to be like a really surprisingly lengthy trial, given the fact that 3 out of 4 of them have all told the same story.
Yeah. I think the hope is that he will plead guilty and they won't have to do another trial for the family of the Rodens to go through again.
Right.
But they said they will be there if he does go to trial.
Yes. I mean, let's not forget about that. Is the victims' families are showing up for these things, and they have to relive this horror over and over and over again. And for us, it's almost like borderline. I feel bad. This is borderline entertainment for us. And that's the honest truth. Yes, I want to see justice, and it's I want to see the right things happen. But we watch it because it's fascinating to us. For them, it's torture and it's horribleness. So let's not forget that. But George Sr. or Billy, the father, as you will, I got to imagine he's going to be rethinking things after seeing what happened with George today.
I would think so, because I don't think he's going to come off on the stand as well as George did. George actually did well on the stand. The prosecutor really tried to egg him on and get his temper to show. Yeah. He contained pretty well. He had to sit on his hands, but he contained it pretty well. But I think who he showed himself in court as and who he was in real life are 2 different people.
Oh, I agree. I would say he's probably the mildest out of the 4 of them.
He probably
just a guess at the affect and the way I see him speak and stuff. And that he tends to bow his head a little bit more than others and do things like that rather than being openly defiant. So I see little signs that he's probably a little more of a follower than a leader. But I can't see Billy, the father, going anywhere with this because everyone down the line has basically said, this guy was the one who egged all of this on. That's what they're saying. I don't know.
That's what they're saying. I
don't know if that's the truth or not. You don't participate in murders because daddy said so. You just don't.
But their father was not living with them at the time either. The mother and the father had some issues, and she really doesn't have anything good to say about him. She didn't really like him.
Well, this is a surprising bit of evidence here that they have issues as in a family of murderers they're having trouble with a relationship. That's a shocker. Mom is kicking in. Hopefully they have all been jailed awaiting these trials. Yes, yeah. I do not believe any of them were eligible for bail.
I don't believe so. No,
I do not believe. And I'm not sure, even if they'd set bail, it probably would have been high enough. None of them would have been able to get out. But so now that's where we're at. There is a Netflix special on this about the, it's about a half hour long. It's just a little special, kind of gives you a little update. It doesn't have what's happened recently over the last couple of weeks with the trial, but it gives you a little better outline of what happened in the murder scenes and everything else. But here we are again, a murder that took place in 2016, and here it is, 2022. Excuse me, 2022. It'll be 2023 when the father goes to trial. It might be 2023 when George was found guilty, but he hasn't been sentenced yet. That might be next year.
Correct.
So, I mean, so now we're talking about 6 years. 6 years, and they've been in custody for 4 of those 6 years. Is the system moving too slow? Is it moving too slow?
I think it is. I mean, I know that this was a big case, right? There was a lot to do. There's 4 people on trial. There's 8 members that were murdered. I mean, I understand this one. I can understand. The Daybell thing is just, I mean, they are just grasping at straws to delay this.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's so irritating.
I mean, just, you know what? Just to kick things a little bit more.
Oh, Lord.
Just Jake Wagner, he didn't plead guilty just to murder. He pled guilty to murder or aggravated murder, felony conspiracy, aggravated burglary, unlawful possession of dangerous ordnance. Those are guns, people. Tampering with evidence, forgery, unauthorized use of property. That means he stole somebody's bicycle. Interception of wire or oral communications, which means they were hacking into their social media accounts. Obstruction of justice, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Why is that even a separate thing? Engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Everything this guy does is corrupt activity. How is that even a separate thing? And finding unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. Hannah Mae Roden, who was 13 when their relationship began, they're actually going back and now charging him with that.
They should.
But because that's, we got to get, maybe we could tack a few more on beyond that 160.
Well, George was also charged with all of those except the last one, I believe.
Right, because
because it all goes together. So
I think the father as well. I think all of them pretty much had the same list of charges.
I believe
they were all complicit in every piece of this, with the exception of the relationship with Hannah. But I mean, this is ridiculous. If they put this in a movie, you'd sit back and say, "This is unbelievable. This is way too much."
Yeah.
But
could you imagine pitching this as like a screenplay or something?
Yeah.
People will be like, "Oh no, nobody's going to believe that." But like, this is real life.
All right, cut it down to 1 or 2 murders, and then maybe we'll do this. But 8,
I know. It's crazy.
And the fact that they could just drive from place to place, kill people. That's 4 stops.
Yeah,
4 stops. What does it take a human being to kill 2 people and then drive down the street, sneak into another house and kill more people, and then drive down the street, sneak into? I mean, at no point did their humanness kick in. No. At no point did anything stop and say, "What the hell are we doing?"
Yeah.
That in itself makes all of them, including the mother who sat home, it should make all of them ineligible for any kind of life with other human beings. I'm sorry. It's just
Yeah. I think they should lock the two brothers up in the cell together. Because I don't think they're getting along very well anymore.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
George is too happy that his mother and brother testified against him.
There was one point when Jake, who made the deal, the plea bargain to save himself from death penalty, was on the stand, and the defense attorney for George said to him, he says, you understand that you made a deal, that you admitted you killed these people, you admitted that he didn't, and you made a deal so that you're protected from death penalty and he might get the death penalty. You got the greatest plea deal in the history of plea deals. And all the other lawyers, the defense or the prosecutor stood up and they're like foul. What
Objection.
Objection. Foul. They throw a flag. They throw a flag. Time out. Like a red flag. I want a replay on that. I got football mixed up with trials. Yeah, so this is crazy. This is a good idea. All four of them should be put in a 10 by 10 cell. I agree.
Yeah, there you go.
But you know what? If you look at the way some of these people were living, that would be about right for them. I don't think that would be that bad. What's going to happen with the daughter at this point? I do believe she's with the Roden family now.
She's with relatives.
Yeah, with relatives.
And the little boy of George's is with his mom.
Okay.
So she gets to raise him.
And, and this just goes on. They were very afraid of this family. Once this started to unfold, I just want to share this. The judge, the prosecutors, and even some of the police officers involved were under protective care where they were being watched at their house and everything, just because the Wagners had made statements. See, once they got caught, they became their own worst enemies because they started making stupid statements like, we'll just kill everybody who's, a part of this. And it's like, well, that's probably not a good thing to say while you're on trial for murder.
One of the detectives, George specifically said on the wire that they had attached to the truck that they used all the time.
Yeah.
Named one of the officers by name and said that he would, if he sees him, he would kill him.
This is the son, George.
Mm-hmm.
The one who, I didn't kill anybody and that wasn't my idea. Now he's threatening cops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think we all made the right decision on this one then.
Yeah.
Would love to see a study. Love to see a study of their brain wiring to see what's shorted out. I think years of just isolation. Sometimes that isolationism really creates kind of that hierarchy of, if one does something, we all do something, and we're all, this is like this old Hatfield and McCoy's. These are the rivalries. The only problem was the Rodents weren't in a rivalry.
No, they were
living their own life.
Yeah, and excuse me. I mean, some of that, they were friendly. Like some of the sons went hunting together, fishing together in years past. And Hannah and Jake were in a serious relationship.
Keith Roden, again, the guy at the bottom in the center there. Keith Roden, who was the last one killed at the place that it was 6.5 miles away. The last one was a friend of the father, was a friend of Billy.
Mm-hmm.
They had actually done a lot of stuff together, and they were.
So was Christopher, I believe.
It's quite possible, yes, but so why kill people like that? I mean, this was not targeted. This is just insanity, and I think this is probably why it was so hard to comprehend the whole totality of all of this. Isolation effect. It's a great theory, Scott. Thank you. It's going to be in my next book, or my first book if I ever write one. The isolation theory. So anyway, I think we pretty much nailed this one down as far as filled everybody in on what's going on.
Yeah, I think so.
This is a strange one. This is a really strange one. And
that poor 16-year-old kid, he was only killed just because he could have been a witness and they couldn't leave any witnesses. And that one kid was only 16.
Yeah.
And nothing to do with nothing.
A 16-year-old kid. I mean, it didn't look like he was probably a threat to anybody. I mean, looking at the picture of him, and unless the picture is not an accurate picture, he looks younger than 16. He looks, so it's not like he's a physical threat to anybody or anything else. Like I said, thank God they left the little children, but just a horrific thing. And again, the wheels of justice move awful slow. At least I think they're getting it right on this one, with the exception of probably too light of a sentence for the mother.
Yeah.
And we'll see how they sentence George when it comes around.
Yeah.
Now that they found him guilty. But, we didn't solve the mystery. We just kind of filled you guys in on it and hopefully entertained you a little bit with it.
Entertainment.
We could go on. I've got pages and pages here of the different things that they went through and the number of times. The original prosecutor, or the original DA, during the time that murder happened until now, he went from the DA to now he's the governor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is now the governor.
I think I heard that.
DeWine, who apparently, if you watch any of the interviews, he's about 4 foot tall. It's either that or the detective that he was always standing next to was 8.5 feet tall. I can't figure out which one. We're going to have to get a forensic check on that.
I do want to watch the press conference following the verdict today. I didn't get a chance. It wasn't playing. Yeah.
And now there's a lot more access than I thought they were going to have. I didn't think they were going to have that much camera work in there, but they just did not film certain people on the stand, but they did film most of it.
The witnesses could opt in or out of audio, video, or both.
Right.
And so, like, the family members all opted out except George. George was on camera.
Yes, I think so. I think George was on camera.
Yes, but Jake and Angela were not.
Well, again, George was also thinking that he had this beat. I think he actually did feel that, because if there was going to be somebody who was going to turn everybody else in and be the first to plea bargain, he due to his apparently agreed upon participation by everybody, due to that, he probably would have faced the least amount of charges with a plea deal. So the reason he didn't do it is because he actually thought, because I didn't pull a trigger, that's going to save me. Mm-hmm.
Well,
au contraire.
I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed. I don't think any of them are.
No, which is why he went along with them. It's like, bring the dumb one.
Oh my gosh.
We need somebody. And he helped bury evidence, and he helped do all of that stuff. I mean, come on. You were in it all the way.
He was in it.
Mary saying, your curiosity, both of you, is awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mary Kay, maybe you'll join us on a show one day. We're going to have to figure out what our next show is going to be on. I'm going to tell you right now, because we're at the end of our show now. Our next show is going to be on, where's my calendar? There we go. It will be on the 14th of December, Wednesday night, the 14th.
Wow.
I know. Can you believe? Well, tomorrow's the 1st of December.
I know.
But some people already got all their Christmas shopping done, apparently.
Just about.
You
just
are good.
About.
You are good.
Even office gifts.
She's suggesting a case of the Lost Boys of Pickering, which is
heard of that.
We'll have to look it up. It's actually Pickering is outside of Toronto, and there was a series of boys that disappeared, or boys that disappeared after a party, or they left a party, never seen, no evidence. So many theories, but nobody knows what happened to them.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have to do a couple. Maybe we'll highlight next. Tell you what we're going to do. Next show, we're going to highlight a couple of unsolved. Just highlight them and just kind of share them with people. And I will look up the Lost Boys of Pickering, and we'll find a few others. And she said, yes, in my neighborhood. So we'll have to have her on the show and find out where she was that night.
I'll send you a name too. There is another one from Canada that has never been found yet.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so you and I will coordinate. Our next show is going to be unsolved crimes.
Unsolved. Mystery.
And we'll look for a few that are just kind of really kind of out there, a little bit different. I mean, God knows there's plenty of unsolved crime, but some of them are very strange, where people disappear just completely disappear, especially when they disappear. Now they're still working on that group of kids, the college kids, right? What happened to them?
Do you know how that scares me? Oh my gosh.
I know.
My child going back to college next in January.
Wow.
And they rented a house for next year for senior year.
Okay.
Like,
so that is scary.
That is
but
very
we'll look into that a little bit too. But we'll grab some unsolved crimes, and if anybody's got any suggestions, reach out to Therese or I. You can catch us on Facebook. You can leave comments on our show. We'll read them and we'll take a look. Certainly. And just thank everybody for joining us. We've had a pretty good group of people out there with Mary and Sandy and Michael and Danette and all the others out there. We got a bunch of likes, and thank you for that. Randy and Patty and Charles, I appreciate it. So what do you say? Wrap this up?
Wrap this up.
All right. You've been watching the Exes podcast with Scott and Therese. Final thoughts?
Don't kill anybody.
You can be on our show. You don't have to kill somebody to be on the show. Don't do that. Don't say, well, I killed him because I want him to be on the show. No, we'll put you on the show. Don't kill anybody. But certainly, be nice to each other. The world needs a little bit more of that. Take care of each other. And, just be happy. Just be happy. Don't kill people. We'll catch you next time on the Exes.